Dawn came to the New Mexico territory the way it always did, tentative at first, then inevitable. Marcus Thornton unlocked the mercantile's front door at precisely 5:30, same as every morning for the past 11 years. The hinges made their familiar complaint. He stepped inside and locked the door behind him. Dust motes swirled in the gray light filtering through windows that needed washing. The smell of burlap and coffee grounds greeted him, mixed with the peculiar scent of a general store leather and tobacco, and dried goods all layered together like sediment. His boot heels echoed on the plank floor as he walked to the back office. This second door he also unlocked. This second threshold he also crossed alone. The office was small but organized with a precision that bordered on severity. Ledgers arranged by year on one shelf, by category on another, account books balanced to the penny, everything alphabetized, everything in its place. Marcus lit the lamp on his desk and settled into the chair that had molded itself to his form over a decade of solitary mornings. He opened the newest ledger acquisitions and receivables. The leather binding creaked, 3 entries down. He found what he was looking for. Kowalski. Anna. Polish immigrant. Widowed. 2 children. Amount owed $147.60. Accumulated from her late husband's failed homestead attempt. Medical debts from Pyotr Kowalski's final illness. Seed loans. Equipment purchases that had gone to rust in fields the man couldn't break. Marcus had purchased the debt from the Territorial Bank for $90. A sound investment. The woman would need work, and he needed help in the store. She could manage inventory, assist customers, perhaps handle basic bookkeeping. 18 months of labor at fair wages applied against the debt. She'd come out free and clear. He'd come out with capable help and a modest profit, charity without sentimentality, profit with propriety. He made a notation in the margin. Arrangement begins Monday, April 11th. He'd need to secure the loose shutters, check the roof seals. The spring storms could be fierce walls of dust that turned day to twilight and left grit in every crack and corner. He closed the ledger with satisfaction. Order. That was the key to everything. You maintained order. And life rewarded you. You helped people. But you helped them within structures that made sense. The woman should be grateful. He was offering her a path out of impossible debt, steady work, a place for her children. It was more than fair. It was generous. Really, though he'd never say so to her face, Marcus rose and extinguished the lamp and locked the office door behind him. The store wouldn't open for another 2 hours, but there was inventory to check. Shelves to stock, the eternal maintenance of order. He had no way of knowing that the ledger entry he'd just closed would be the last time his certainty felt comfortable. The wind rattled the windows harder now, carrying the smell of distant dust. Anna Kowalski arrived at 8 o'clock Monday morning with her children in tow. Marcus had unlocked the front door at 7:30, prepared to receive her with appropriate formality. He'd rehearsed the conversation in his mind, clear expectations. Fair terms. Perhaps some reassurance that hard work would be rewarded. What he hadn't prepared for was the directness of her gaze. She stood in the doorway, backlit by morning sun. A woman, perhaps 30 years old, thin in the way of people who'd known hunger, wearing a dress that had been mended more than once. The boy beside her looked about 8. Solemn-faced and watchful, the girl was younger. Why, maybe 6, clutching a worn book to her chest. "Mr. Thornton," Anna said. Her accent shaped the words carefully, like someone speaking a language learned through deliberate study rather than childhood immersion. "I am Anna Kowalski. This is my son, Tomasz, my daughter, Małgorzata. You sent word we should come today." "Yes, of course. Please, come in." Marcus gestured to the chairs he'd arranged near the counter. "I thought we should discuss the terms of your employment." Anna nodded and moved to the chairs, but she didn't sit. The children stood behind her, silent as shadows. Marcus felt suddenly wrong-footed, like he'd prepared for a different conversation than the one about to happen. "I purchased your debt from the bank," he began. $147.60. "I'm prepared to offer you work here in the store. Your wages will be applied against the debt, at a rate of—" "What wage?" Anna interrupted. Marcus blinked. I'm sorry. What wage will you pay? You said wages applied against debt. What is the wage? Well, I thought, given the circumstances, $8 a month would be. The clerk you employed last year, what did you pay him? How did she know about that? Marcus felt heat climb his neck. That's not entirely relevant. He was a man with experience. And I have experience, Mr. Thornton. My family owned a store in Galicia. I kept accounts from the time I was 12 years old. I speak Polish, German, some Spanish. My English improves each day. What did you pay him? The silence stretched between them. Outside, a freight wagon rumbled past. $12 a month, Marcus admitted. Then I will work for $12 a month. Applied against the debt. I calculate this means 12 months and 12 days to repay $147.60, perhaps less, if you require me to work more than the standard hours. Marcus opened his mouth, closed it. She was negotiating. The woman whose debt he owned was sitting here negotiating like they were equals discussing a business arrangement. There are conditions, he managed. You'll need to be available. I have conditions also, Anna said. Her voice remained level. But something in it made Marcus actually listen. I will work 6 days each week. Not Sunday. My children will continue to attend school. I will not work past 7 in the evening. If you require more hours, the wages increase proportionally. Mrs. Kowalski, I don't think you understand the situation. I bought your debt. I'm offering you an opportunity to work it off, which is more generous than you bought debt, Thornton. Anna met his eyes fully for the first time. And Marcus saw something there he hadn't expected. Not defiance, exactly. Certainty. Not gratitude, not loyalty. Debt, I will repay debt through work. That is business. Clear business. The children watched this exchange with the stillness of those who'd learned early not to interrupt adult negotiations. The little girl's fingers tightened on her book. Marcus felt something shift in the room. Though he couldn't name what, he'd expected tears. Perhaps. Or at least some acknowledgement of his generosity. Instead, this woman stood in his store and spoke of conditions and wages like she had leverage, when they both knew she had none. Fine, he said, more sharply than intended. $12 a month, 6 days a week, but I expect diligence and you will have diligence. Mr. Thornton, I pay my debts. Always. She extended her hand. Marcus stared at it a moment before realizing she expected him to shake. The gesture felt wrong, too equal, too formal, but refusing would be absurd. He grasped her hand briefly. Her palm was calloused, her grip firm. You can start tomorrow, he said. I'll show you the inventory system and I can start today. Better to begin. And that was how Anna Kowalski entered his employment. Not with gratitude, not with the deference he'd anticipated, but with the cool assessment of someone reviewing a contract she intended to fulfill. As she left with her children to arrange their lodging, she paused at the door. Thank you for the work, Mr. Thornton. Her voice was quieter now, almost kind. Not for buying the debt, for the work. The distinction made no sense to Marcus. He'd saved her from impossible debt, given her a path forward. What difference did it make whether she thanked him for the opportunity or the employment, but after she'd gone? The question bothered him more than it should have. 2 weeks passed before Marcus arrived one morning to find his store rearranged. He'd unlocked the front door at 5:30 as usual, crossed to his office, worked through correspondence and account books in solitude. At 7:15, he emerged to prepare for opening and stopped dead. The dry goods section had been completely restructured, where before he'd organized products by type, all grains together, all canned goods together, all dried vegetables together, now items clustered in groupings that made no logical sense. Buckwheat groats sat next to beets and cabbage, pumpernickel bread near sauerkraut, dried chilies beside masa harina. Anna was already at work. Dusting shelves near the hardware section, she glanced up as he approached. Mrs. Kowalski, did you reorganize these shelves? Yes. In Thornton, yesterday evening, after closing, without asking me. You hired me to improve the store. I improved it. She set down her dustcloth. You should see increased sales in dry goods within a week. That's not, you can't just. Marcus gestured at the chaos. I had a system. Everything organized by product type. Customers could find what they needed. Your customers could not find what they needed. Mr. Thornton, they could find products, not the same thing. She walked to the reorganized section and pointed. Mrs. Gruber comes every week. German lady. Husband works the railroad. She wants to cook Wurst and Kartoffelpuffer like her mother made in Bavaria. Before, she must walk all through your store, finding each item separate. Now she sees them together. She remembers she needs onions also. She buys more. Anna moved to another cluster, the Gonzalez family. They look for chilies, masa, beans, before, scattered everywhere. Now, together, they see the dried tomatoes nearby. They remember pozole. They buy extra. That's not how a store is organized, Marcus said. But his certainty wavered. That is not how your store was organized, but people do not cook by product type. Mr. Thornton, they cook meals. They remember recipes. You give them ingredients together. They buy what they didn't know they needed. Marcus stared at the shelves. The logic was sound. He had to admit, but admitting that meant admitting she understood his customers better than he did after 11 years in business. We'll see if sales support your theory, he said stiffly. Yes, we will see. 10 days later, he reviewed the account books. Dry goods sales had increased 14%. He sat at his desk that evening after closing, listening to Anna in the main room. She was teaching her children, using product labels as reading primers. Arbuckle's coffee, the boy sounded out carefully. Arbuckle''S. Very good. Tomasz, now you. Kochana. The girl's voice was softer, hesitant. Doctor, prices, cream. Baking powder. Yes. Malgazada. Perfect. Marcus heard warmth in Anna's voice he'd never heard when she spoke to him. With her children, she was patient, encouraging, gentle. With him, she remained cool and professional, a clerk fulfilling a contract, nothing more. He thought of the ledger in his drawer. Anna Kowalski, $147.60. 18 months of labor, he'd calculated. Except she wasn't laboring like someone working off debt. She was working like someone building something, and the woman who reorganized his store without asking, who negotiated terms like an equal, who taught her children to read using his inventory. This woman understood business in ways he hadn't recognized. The realization unsettled him more than the rearranged shelves. She wasn't supposed to be competent. She was supposed to be grateful. By the end of May, Anna's presence had transformed the mercantile in ways Marcus couldn't have predicted. Her languages drew customers. The Polish families who'd previously traveled to Santa Fe found they could shop in their native tongue. The German immigrants discovered someone who understood more than their words, who knew the foods they missed, the goods they sought. Even the Mexican laborers from the railroads began stopping in. Drawn by Anna's halting but earnest Spanish, the store became something other than a store. It became a meeting place, a piece of home for people far from home. Marcus watched from behind the counter as Anna helped old Mrs. Kowalczyk find the exact weight of dried mushrooms she needed for bigos, explaining in rapid Polish where to find the sausage and sauerkraut. He watched her sketch a diagram for the Schneider brothers, showing them how to repair their plow blade with the tools he stocked. He watched her count out change in Spanish for the Rodriguez family, making sure each child received a piece of peppermint from the jar. Sales climbed steadily, but one afternoon in early June, Anna approached him with a suggestion that tested the limits of his comfort. Mr. Thornton, I would like to discuss credit terms. They were alone in the store between the afternoon lull and evening customers. Marcus looked up from his inventory lists. We don't extend credit. I know. I suggest we should. Absolutely not. Credit means risk. Risk means loyalty. Anna interrupted. Credit means loyalty. Mrs. Gruber's husband was injured last month. She needs flour until he returns to work. She will remember who helped when times were hard. Or she'll remember who she can manipulate for free goods. Anna's expression didn't change, but something in her stillness felt like judgment. The Gonzalez family had a poor harvest. They need seed for replanting, with credit. And they buy from you, without. They travel to Santa Fe where the merchant extends terms. Let them travel. Then I built this business on sound principles. Mrs. Kowalski, you don't loan money to people who can't repay. You bought my debt, Anna said quietly. Was that sound principle? The question landed like a slap. Marcus felt heat rise to his face. That was different. That was an investment in someone you thought couldn't repay, or someone you thought would repay through labor. She was right. Damn her. He'd bought the debt because he'd known she'd work it off. He'd trusted her capacity to repay, even while assuming her incapacity in every other regard. I'll consider it, he said curtly. Anna nodded and returned to her work, but over the following weeks, Marcus watched something that puzzled him. Anna kept a small notebook in her apron pocket. She'd pull it out occasionally, make quick notations, then tuck it away. One evening, he saw Mrs. Gruber slip something into Anna's hand at the door. Coins. Anna marked something in her notebook. What was that? Marcus asked after the woman left. Repayment. I loaned her money for flour 3 weeks ago. Today she repays. You loaned her money you barely make enough to pay rent and feed my children. Yes. But Mrs. Gruber needed flour, so I loaned her 50 cents at no interest. She repays when she can. Anna showed him the notebook. Dozens of entries, meticulously tracked, amounts loaned, amounts repaid, and all in her precise handwriting. They always repay, Marcus asked despite himself. Always, and sometimes it takes longer, but always they repay. She had nothing. Less than nothing. She still owed him over $100. Yet she extended credit from her meager wages. She trusted people he considered poor risks. And somehow her informal lending system worked. That night, Marcus sat in his locked office staring at his perfectly balanced ledgers. Anna's notebook contained more trust in its crumpled pages than he'd extended in 11 years of careful business. The woman he'd thought to rescue was teaching him lessons he didn't want to learn. The dust storm hit on a Tuesday evening in mid-June. Rolling in from the east like a wall of red-brown cloud, Marcus had seen it coming and sent the handful of customers home early. He was securing the shutters when Anna emerged from the back room. The children are sleeping, she said. The storm frightened Malgorzata. It should pass by morning. You're welcome to wait it out here rather than walk home in this. Anna nodded and began helping him with the shutters. They worked in silence, the wind howling against the building. By the time they finished, full darkness had fallen outside, though it was barely 7 o'clock. Marcus lit 2 lamps. The main room felt suddenly intimate, closed off from the world by walls of wind and dust. Coffee, he offered. Anna looked surprised. In 6 weeks of working together, he'd never offered her coffee. Yes, thank you. He prepared it on the small stove in the back, brought 2 cups to where Anna sat near the counter. For a long moment, they sat in silence, listening to the storm rage. You asked me once about Poland, Anna said finally. I never answered properly. Marcus hadn't realized he'd been waiting for this. You don't have to. My family were merchants in a town called Przemysl. My father sold fabric, buttons, thread, small goods. He taught me to keep accounts when I was 12 years old. 4 languages I learned from customers: Polish, German, Yiddish, Russian. You learn languages or you starve in the borderlands. She sipped her coffee. Gaze distant. The partitions destroyed everything. Soldiers came. Went and came again. Each time, they took. You learn not to trust governments. You learn to trust only family. And maybe not even that. How did you end up here, Piotr? Her voice softened. My husband, he was a dreamer. He read letters from America. Believed in free land and new starts. I knew better. I knew homesteading was hard. Knew we had no experience farming, but I loved him, so I came. Anna's fingers tightened around her cup. The ocean crossing was in steerage, 3 weeks below deck with hundreds of others. People died. Children mostly. We were lucky. Marcus watched her face. She told this without self-pity, just stating facts. Piotr tried so hard, broke ground, planted wheat, but he didn't know soil or weather or the 1,000 things farmers learn from fathers and grandfathers. The first winter, he got sick. Pneumonia. I spent everything for doctors. He died anyway. 3rd of January. Buried in frozen ground while my children watched. I'm sorry, Marcus said quietly. The debt accumulated from all of it. Seed loans, equipment, medical bills. I understand debt. Mr. Thornton, I understand business. What I didn't have was capital or citizenship or fluent English or a man's name to sign contracts. The bank was going to foreclose. Take even the small plot we owned. She looked at him directly. When you bought the debt, you gave me something I didn't have before a structured way out. 18 months of work. Clear terms. Manageable repayment. That was good business, not charity. Business. Marcus felt something shift in his understanding. You never saw this as rescue. No, I saw it as opportunity. You needed help. I needed work. The debt purchase made the arrangement possible. That's all. The locked office door stood between them, visible from where they sat. Solid oak with a brass handle. Marcus had never considered what it looked like from the outside, what it said about him. You could have asked for better terms, he said. Anna smiled, just a little. Could I, a Polish widow with no collateral, asking an American merchant for generosity? I chose certainty over hope. Mr. Thornton, work over charity. The storm battered the windows. In the lamplight, Anna's face showed exhaustion and determination in equal measure. I'm lonely, Marcus heard himself say. The words surprised him. I've been lonely for 11 years, and I never noticed until you started working here. Anna set down her coffee cup carefully. Loneliness comes from closing doors. I think from keeping everything separate and ordered and controlled. She didn't look at the office door, but Marcus felt the reference anyway. All my order, he said slowly, and all my success, and I've never had a conversation this honest. Then perhaps you should unlock some doors. Mr. Thornton, they sat in silence as the storm raged. The coffee cooled between them. And Marcus understood that the debt he'd purchased had bound him more than her. She'd been free all along. He'd been the one trapped behind locked doors. By July, Marcus had installed the credit system Anna suggested. He kept separate ledgers for it, tracked every transaction, charged modest interest on longer terms. The system worked exactly as Anna predicted. Customers were loyal. Repayment was consistent, and the store's reach expanded, but the change that mattered most was smaller. He stopped locking his office door during business hours. It felt strange at first, that open threshold, vulnerable. But Anna had been right. Closing doors closed possibilities. He found himself consulting her more often, showing her the account books, asking her opinion on inventory decisions. They were becoming something like partners, though neither acknowledged it directly. Then Tomasz got sick. Marcus noticed the boy's absence first. Tomasz usually arrived with Anna in the mornings, helped stock shelves before school. 3 days passed with no sign of him. On the 4th day, Anna arrived alone, her face drawn with exhaustion. Mrs. Kowalski, is everything all right? Tomasz has fever. The doctor says pneumonia maybe. Maybe just influenza. I must pay for medicine. She reached into her pocket, pulled out a small cloth purse. I need advance on wages, $3 for the medicine. I will work extra hours to... No. Marcus interrupted. Anna's face went carefully blank. I can work Sundays if needed, or stay later in evenings. No. I mean... Marcus stopped, recognizing the choice in front of him. He could make her beg, maintain the power distance their roles implied, or he could act as the partner he claimed to be becoming. He went to his office, removed $3 from the cash box, returned and placed it in Anna's hand. Consider it an investment in my best clerk, he said. Repay when convenient. Anna's eyes flashed gratitude mixed with something sharper. Pride, maybe, or the pain of needing help. I will repay quickly. I know you will. I hope Tomasz recovers soon. She left immediately to purchase the medicine. Marcus stood in the empty store, remembering Anna's story about her husband dying of pneumonia, remembering 2 children watching their father buried in frozen ground. He understood her urgency now, understood why she'd asked so carefully, ready to promise anything. Tomasz recovered within a week. Anna repaid the $3 within 2 weeks. Though Marcus had never specified a timeline, she simply appeared one morning, counted out the coins with her characteristic precision, and marked it repaid in the ledger. "Thank you," she said quietly. "You're welcome." The office door stood open behind him. Anna glanced at it, then back to Marcus. Neither mentioned the change directly. Progress this new felt too fragile for words, but something had shifted between them. The transaction had been simple, a loan, a repayment. But the gesture beneath it acknowledged what they were becoming. Not employer and employee, not creditor and debtor. Something else, something neither quite had words for yet. The rumors started in early August. Marcus first heard them at the Merchant Association meeting. Walter Hendricks, who ran the competing general store on the east side of town, made a comment about certain merchants who let themselves be managed by their help. Marcus ignored it. Then Mrs. Weatherby, wife of the bank president, mentioned in passing that it seemed odd for a successful businessman to rely so heavily on immigrant labor. By the third week of August, the gossip had teeth. Anna was stealing. Anna was manipulating him. Anna was the rumors got uglier, using feminine wiles to secure her position and eventually trap him into marriage for financial security. The implications were racist, sexist, and effective. Several of his established Anglo customers stopped shopping at the Mercantile. At the next Merchant Association meeting, Hendricks was more direct. "A man who can't control his own clerk can't be trusted with complex transactions. Marcus, people are talking. You should do something about the Polish situation before it affects all of us." The message was clear fire, Anna. Assert dominance. Prove he wasn't weak or manipulated. Marcus left the meeting feeling sick. He returned to find Anna closing up the store. She looked up as he entered, and he saw in her eyes that she'd heard the rumors too. "I can leave," she said quietly. "I've saved enough to cover 3 months' rent. Tomasz and Malgorzata can manage while I find other work. You shouldn't suffer for employing me." The absolute dignity in those words broke something in Marcus. All his life, he'd chosen safety over courage, order over risk. He'd built a successful business by being careful, deliberate, acceptable to the right people. And here stood a woman who'd survived wars and poverty and ocean crossings in widowhood, offering to leave so he wouldn't suffer minor social discomfort. "You're not leaving," Marcus said. "Mr. Thornton." "Oh, the rumors can go to hell. This is our store. Anna, ours, and I won't let small-minded bigots determine who I work with or respect." The possessive caught both of them off guard. "Our store. When had it become that they will make things difficult?" Anna said. "Let them. We'll build customer base elsewhere. We're already doing that. The immigrant communities trust us. We'll expand that. Add a second location maybe, in the newer neighborhoods where Polish and German families are settling." Anna studied his face. "You would risk your reputation for this. I'd risk my reputation for what's right, for partnership, for—" Marcus stopped, surprised by the heat in his own voice. "You've taught me more about business and people in 4 months than I learned in 11 years of careful isolation. I'm not giving that up because Walter Hendricks is afraid of competition." He saw tears in her eyes for the first time. She blinked them away quickly. "Thank you," she whispered. That night, Marcus couldn't sleep. He lay in his room above the store, listening to the wind, thinking about choices. For years, he'd believed power came from control, from debt ownership, from capital, from keeping himself separate and superior. But Anna had never been controlled, never been owned. Her dignity existed independent of her economic circumstances, and the power he'd thought he had, the leverage of her debt, had always been illusion. You couldn't own someone who refused to be owned. The debt that gave him power had always run the opposite direction. He owed her, for the education, for the transformation, for teaching him that freedom meant something other than absence of obligation. At dawn, he rose and went downstairs. Anna was already there, preparing the store for opening. "We need to talk about partnership," Marcus said. She looked up, cautious but hopeful. "Yes," she said, "I think we do." 6 months after Anna first walked into the Mercantile, she made the final payment on her debt. It was a Tuesday morning in October. The summer dust storms had passed. leaving the air crystalline and clear. Anna arrived at 7 o'clock, as she had every day since their conversation in August. But this morning, she carried a small cloth purse. Marcus was arranging the new shipment of fabric bolts. He turned as she approached. "Mr. Thornton, I have the final payment." She opened the purse and began counting coins onto the counter. Marcus watched her hands, capable, precise. The same hands that had reorganized his store, managed his books, built trust with customers he'd never reached. $12.60, the last of $147.60. Marcus made a notation in the debt ledger. Anna Kowalski, amount owed $0, paid in full. October 17th, 1887. He closed the ledger. Then he walked to his office and opened the door, completely pushed it wide against the wall so it couldn't swing closed. The symbolic gesture felt insufficient, but it was what he had. "Mrs. Kowalski, Anna, I have a proposition, a genuine one, not an obligation disguised as opportunity." He brought out the account books, spread them on the counter between them. "Store profits are up 43% since you started. More importantly, we serve a community now, not just customers. People trust this place. That's worth more than any sales figure." Anna listened, her face unreadable. "I want to propose partnership, not employment partnership. You buy in with labor equity. The value you've added beyond debt repayment. We formalize profit sharing and expand to a second location serving immigrant neighborhoods. Equal partners." The silence stretched. Marcus realized he was holding his breath. "You're offering partnership because of profit?" Anna asked finally. "I'm offering partnership because I respect you. The profit just proves I should have done it 6 months ago." Marcus met her eyes. "You transformed this business. You transformed me. I'd be a fool not to recognize that." "And if I refuse?" Marcus smiled a genuine smile, the kind he'd forgotten how to make. "Then I'll have learned something about freedom I couldn't have learned any other way. You'd still be free to leave, and I'd still be grateful for the education." Anna studied the account books. Her finger traced the profit columns, the expense entries, the careful notation Marcus had made about her labor equity value. "Equal partners," she said. "Equal partners. You understand what that means. I have voting rights on decisions, control over expansion plans, my name on the documents." "I understand." Anna extended her hand. Not the tentative handshake of their first meeting, but the firm grip of someone sealing a serious contract. "Then I accept." "Mr. Thornton, as an equal." "Marcus, partners use given names." "Anna." They shook. The contact lasted a moment longer than business required. Through the windows behind them, October sunlight illuminated the transformed store, the reorganized shelves, the multilingual signs Anna had added, the customer ledgers that tracked fair credit terms and built loyalty. Everything the same, everything different. "I'll have the lawyer draw up papers," Marcus said. "We should discuss terms for the second location. Maybe you have ideas about—" "I have many ideas," Anna interrupted, and there was warmth in her voice now. "But first, we should tell the children. Tomasz will want to know if there's work for him as he grows. Malgorzata already asks about bookkeeping." Marcus realized she was including her children in the future of their partnership. The business would continue beyond them, built on foundation of mutual respect rather than debt and obligation. "Yes," he said. "Let's tell them together." The office door stood open against the wall. The ledgers showed Anna's debt paid to $0. The October light illuminated possibility. Same mercantile, same morning, same transaction space, everything transformed. Dawn came clear to the New Mexico territory, the kind of crystalline morning that follows storm season's end. Marcus unlocked the mercantile door at 5:30, same as always. But this morning, he left it unlocked behind him. Anna would arrive at 6:30 with the children. No need to make them wait in the cold. The store smelled of coffee and burlap and possibility. Dust motes swirled in cleaner windows. Anna had insisted on washing them monthly. Said it invited customers inside. The shelves held the same goods, but organized now by culture and meal planning, by the logic of memory and recipes rather than arbitrary product categories. Marcus made coffee on the back stove, 2 cups. the habit now automatic. He heard voices outside, Tomasz explaining something to Małgorzata in the rapid mix of Polish and English the children spoke. They entered together, Anna ushering them inside. "Good morning," Marcus called. "Good morning, Pitt. Mr. Thornton." The children chorused. They still called him that, though their mother used his given name now. "Tomasz, could you help me with the new inventory when you're finished with school today?" Marcus asked. "I'd like your opinion on the hardware arrangement." The boy's face lit up. "Yes, sir." Małgorzata was already at the counter, practicing her letters on a slate. She'd announced last week that she wanted to keep books like her mother. Anna was teaching her double-entry accounting. Anna accepted the coffee Marcus offered with a smile that contained no deference. No gratitude, just the easy recognition of partners who'd chosen to build something together. "The lawyer's office sent papers for the second location," she said. "We should review them this afternoon. Also, Mrs. Kowalczyk wants to discuss selling her preserves on consignment. I think it's a good idea, builds community connection." "Agreed. We could dedicate a section to local goods, preserves, crafts, baked items." They discussed business while the children worked quietly nearby. This was the rhythm now, partnership in practice. Not just promise, the expansion plans, the community connections, the slow, steady building of something larger than either could create alone. At 7 o'clock, Tomasz and Małgorzata left for school. Anna began preparing the store for opening. Marcus reviewed the account books in his office, the door standing permanently open now. The threshold no longer a barrier. 2 names in the ledger, 2 signatures on the partnership documents, 2 cups of coffee going cold on the counter, through the windows. The Sangre de Cristo Mountains stood sharp against cloudless sky. Marcus had looked at those mountains every morning for 11 years. Only recently had he noticed their beauty. A German family entered new to the territory. Uncertain, clutching a piece of paper with the store's address, Anna greeted them in their language, the words flowing naturally as she explained credit terms and welcomed them to the community. Marcus watched and remembered his certainty from that morning 6 months ago. The ledger entry, the calculation of debt repayment, the assumption that ownership granted authority. He'd bought her debt thinking it gave him power, but debt was just numbers in a book. Dignity couldn't be purchased. Freedom wasn't absence of obligation. It was the presence of respect within obligation. Partnership wasn't the leverage of power over another. It was the multiplication of strength through trust. Anna was helping the German family select supplies, her notebook already out to track their credit. They'd repay. Marcus knew. Anna's informal system had taught him that trust, offered genuinely, was almost always rewarded. He made 2 more cups of coffee, brought one to Anna as she finished with the customers. She accepted it without looking, continuing her conversation. But her fingers brushed his briefly in acknowledgement. The locked door that had protected him from nothing worth keeping stood open to everything worth having. The dust storm season had passed. The sky was clear. The mountains revealed themselves in sharp detail. Same mercantile, same morning light, same transaction space. Everything transformed by the simple recognition that freedom lived not in isolation, but in the choice to connect, not in control, but in the courage to trust, not in what you owned, but in what you built together. Marcus returned to the counter as new customers entered. The day was beginning. The partnership was solid. The future stretched ahead with the same clarity as the mountain skyline, vast and beautiful and possible. Anna smiled at him across the store, and he smiled back. Same world, the same people, everything different.